In October 1973, one of the most famous UFO sightings in the history of Ohio would happen. The UFO would be witnessed by 4 highly credible members of the armed forces. The sightings garnered much attention, even leading to one of the men, Lawrence Coyne, testifying before the United Nations in 1978 and urging them to look into the matter more seriously. The month the men spotted the object was also a popular time for UFO sightings in the country. Down south, 7 days before, 2 men alleged to be abducted in one of the most popular alien abductions in history, the Pascagoula Incident. In addition to this, then Ohio Governor John Gilligan stated he and his wife spotted a UFO while driving home from Michigan. In this episode, we will examine this highly credible case, an event that has came to be known as the Coyne Incident. On October 18, 1973, around 10:30 p.m., Lawrence Coyne, Arrigo Jesse, Robert Yanisek, and John Healy departed Port Columbus International Airport on a Bell UH-1H Super Huey helicopter headed toward Cleveland. The night was completely clear, with visibility for at least 15 miles. The helicopter ascended to around 2,500 feet and settled in flying around 100 miles per hour. Just after 11 p.m., the men were flying north over Charles Mill Lake when Robert Yanisek saw a red light to the east. It seemed the light was flying parallel with the chopper. Suddenly, though, the light turned and began heading toward their direction. Lawrence Coyne was piloting the chopper and radioed to air traffic control, asking whether any other planes or aircraft were in the vicinity. Air traffic control didn't answer the question, and the red light was quickly headed toward them. At this point, Lawrence Coyne descended, hoping to avoid a collision, but the craft descended too. Coyne was sure they were going to collide and braced for impact, shutting his eyes. Right as the craft was ready to hit, though, it didn't. Coyne would then hear Healy say, "Look at that." In front of the men, just above it, hovered. The craft was 60 feet long, 20 feet tall, cigar-shaped and silver. The red light was on the left end. Underneath the craft, a green light illuminated. It was quite bright, lighting up the entire inside of the helicopter. At this time, the radio wasn't working, and the compass was going haywire, spinning around rapidly. The craft appeared to be scanning and examining the helicopter and the men as the green light shined inside it. Then the green light turned off and the craft began slowly heading west. As this occurred, the helicopter was at 1,700 feet. However, as the craft hovered away, Coyne shockingly realized the chopper was ascending quickly. It rose all the way to 3,500 feet in just a few seconds. The men had no control of the helicopter at the time, and it rose to 3,800 feet. Then they felt a bump, and Coyne was able to regain control. He descended down to 2,700 feet, and soon the crew headed on to Cleveland. Coyne, along with his crew, would soon go on to tell many of what happened that night. Coyne would tell Jay Vollmer, the chief of operations for the Federal Aviation Administration at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Vollmer would listen to his story and later state, "I personally have an extremely high regard for his integrity and capability." Coyne also told the Cleveland Plain Dealer newspaper, the National Enquirer, and Rod Serling, the creator of the Twilight Zone. In addition to the 4 men all repeating the same story and all being deemed highly credible, there were witnesses on the ground who alleged to report seeing the craft that night. It's not known whether the craft was picked up on radar, but that's surely something that is possible as well. The 4 men appeared to see a pretty popular type of UFO, the cigar-shaped craft. This type of UFO has been reported in multiple cases. On this channel, we have covered this type of craft on past episodes, such as the Cisco Grove alien encounter, the Cressy Cigar UFO sighting, and the 1978 Chilean UFO air rod as well as the 1954 Sonina case, to name a few. Still, there is one detail to this case that is quite fascinating that doesn't appear to have been explored as well. The helicopter was flying over Charles Mill Lake in Ohio at the time of the event. In 1959, 3 boys walking along the lake would spot some type of hideous creature. The boys would rush and get authorities, who would find footprints at the scene. A few years later, another sighting of the Charles Mill Lake monster occurred. Could it be the case that these events are somehow related? Often cases with cryptids, paranormal activity, and UFOs are only investigated from one perspective, but many times these cases seem to involve more than one area. This is probably most prominent with Bigfoot cases, where individuals have reported Sasquatch disappearing into thin air, and also cases where Sasquatch has been seen with other alien species. Reports of UFOs from pilots and their crew continue to come in, and it doesn't appear these are slowing down. We even got video evidence of this now that has been made to the public. Despite being hit with a green light, none of the men in the story appeared to suffer any adverse health consequences, and all were able to live normal lives.